You are listening to 600 Saga. Today's feature is Ghost by Ditrie Marie Bowie. Clarice was having the time of her life. Well, post-life, to be technical. The living portion of her existence had been smashed in the face with a semi roughly 3 weeks ago. But she didn't really mind. Having invisibility and the ability to phase through walls, teleport, and fly tended to do that to a person. Right now, she was perched on Ricky Strider's desk. His bedroom was exactly what she'd expected from an uber-privileged toxic male dude bro. Misogyny practically dripped off the walls. Clarice was honestly surprised he had a desk at all. She'd never seen him turn in a single sheet of homework in the 3 years they'd had classes together. Ricky coasted by on a slimy wave of politics and financial superiority. But all that was about to change. Because today was the day that Ricky would finally be put in his place. Clarice licked her lips in anticipation and floated off the desk toward the sleeping teen. Her ghostly sense tingled at the possibilities. Should she rip the covers off his bed, toss the sports trophies around the room, release a blood-curdling scream? She rubbed her ectoplasmic fingers and decided upon all three. Ricky Strider would never sleep again. Clarice leaned down and got a good grip on one edge of his blanket when, whoosh, she was sucked into a field of speckled darkness and had just enough time to whine, "Not again," before the portal plopped her down in another room. It was a familiar room, and one the vortex had sent her to time and time again. It had been, at least Clarice counted on her fingers, 30 times this week. The ghost girl knew better than to run away. Rules were rules, and every time someone thought of her, the ghost world treated it like a summons. Any effort to escape would bring her right back to where she started, until the living person was ready to let her go and continue, well, living. Clarice sat on the bed next to her weeping mother and groaned. This was the worst part of being a ghost. It was like being grounded, but without being able to sneak out the window. To be fair, if she hadn't snuck out the window that night, Clarice wouldn't have been hit by a semi. Her mother clutched a phone in her hands and scrolled through old photos. "I never even got to tell her," she whispered. Clarice's astral ears perked up. Tell her? Tell her what? But of course her mother didn't answer. Instead, she closed the photo gallery and clicked on a file folder that Clarice had never noticed before. This was new. The ghost felt a familiar release as her mother shifted thoughts. Clarice was now free to return to the Strider household. But she didn't. She was hypnotized by this new development. Her mother waded through folders within folders, like a prospector sifting for gold. What was she looking for? The last folder loaded its contents and Clarice leaned in. Her mother shivered. On the screen were countless images of handwritten notes. But there were old-fashioned chat messages, too. Most of them were full of mushy stuff. All of them were addressed to her mom. Clarice's ghostly form tingled. Could this be her real dad? The folder had regular photos, too. Her mom looked so much younger in them. And there, that guy in the picture had to be her dad. He had the same eyes as Clarice, a glittering green. They even had the same chin dimples. Something else about the man tickled at the back of her mind, but she couldn't quite grasp it. The ghost sighed. Her mother looked so happy in those photos. Why had the pair broken up? And why hadn't her mom ever mentioned him? The weeping woman reached the last picture. It was an image of an email message. Clarice leaned in closer and skimmed it for something important. Ah, there it was. Jane. You know I love you and the baby with all of my heart, but I could never be a good dad. You've seen what my family is like. I'd totally mess everything up if I stuck around, especially now that my career is getting off the ground. Besides, you know I've got to go through with this political marriage. It'd be financial suicide if I didn't. I'll always love you, but I can't make promises I know I won't keep. Good luck with the baby, baby. Love, Joseph Strider. Strider? A blue flame pulsed around Clarice's ghostly body. The nerve of that no-good son of a... But something made her stop. Who would she have been if her dad had stuck around? Clarice blinked and returned to Ricky's room. He was her brother, and, well, look at him. The blue flames around Clarice dulled down to a purple, hazy smoke. She actually felt sorry for Ricky. He had no idea how to be a decent human being. And that could have been her. Instead of causing mayhem in his room, she wandered back to his desk, quietly scrambled for some pen and paper, checking over her shoulder to make sure he was sound asleep. Clarice quickly scrawled out a message. Ricky, this is Clarice, your half-sister. Long story? Ask Dad about it. You were a complete jerk to me, but I forgive you. And I'm also disappointed in you, too. Life is short, and you should spend the time you have left trying to be a better person. Because right now, honestly, you suck. Do better. With that, Clarice put the pen down and slowly faded out of this realm and on to the other side. This was Ghost by Ditrie Marie Bowie. Ditrie Marie Bowie, née Sanchez, is a Puerto Rican in British Columbia, Canada, who writes fiction. Bowie professionally reviews books for IndieReader and teaches English to non-native speakers around the globe. Her debut novel, Fillius Glint, ranked in the top 10% of indie books that Kirkus Reviews read in 2017. A classically trained pianist, she has lived in 3 different countries spanning 2 continents, and she met her spouse in a video game. She also has a pet dragon. Bearded dragon, that is. Find her at DitrieMarieBowie.com, on Patreon, Twitter, or Facebook. Check our show notes for links. Music is provided by Mads. Learn more about 600 Saga, our authors, how to submit your flash fiction, and how to support the podcast in the show notes. This has been Mariah Avix and 600 Saga.